All right, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings for June 24th, 2025. I'd also like to make a short note that we may be having a short power outage. Hopefully it will not last long. The reason is that PSEG is updating the grid. When that does happen, I will make sure that we pause the meeting until everything is back online and we're up and running again. Hopefully that won't last very long. We have 4 public hearings tonight, and the first one is Alexandra Marie Noble and Rose Malandrados, 48 Treasure Island Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-175-5-20. The description is to allow an existing stone area, fence and shed to remain within jurisdiction of beach vegetation and a side and rear yard lot line setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 2 variances are required for this application. 1 variance of 8 feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the gravel area to remain 0 feet from the northern side yard lot line, where an 8-foot setback is required. 1 variance of 8 feet is required from 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the gravel area to remain 2 feet from the western rear yard lot line, where an 8-foot setback is required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is a B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10. Secret class is type 2. Council, is the affidavit of service and posting in order?
Yeah, I reviewed the application, notice and posting, and everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this hearing.
Member Mering, do we have a field inspection?
Yes, we do. Waiting for the photos to come up. There we go. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is looking straight. I'm on Treasure Island Drive, which I think we know is in the westernmost part of Beach Hampton. It's a very narrow road. I'm standing just looking straight at the driveway of the property number 48 Treasure Island Drive. You could see the whole front. As we know, this is a small lot. The right of way is graveled and used fully as a parking lot. Next slide. Just got a little closer for the posting. The posting was visible from the road, but it was sort of tucked back and it was shady, so I didn't get a great picture of it. Next slide. And this is I just wanted to show on the left half of this photo, it just shows the cottage next door to the south. So 1 story, just wanted to give, I didn't take shots of all the different houses, but just wanted to see this one. Okay, next slide. And by the way, that deck and stairs, they're in the right of way. They were on a C of O survey, but I was sort of, I just wanted to note that they're not directly on the property. Okay, so now I've gone in through that sort of pergola gate and I'm looking at the front of the street-facing side of the house. There's, as you know on the survey, there's a front yard deck. You can see to the right, there's a side yard, south yard deck on the left. So you can kind of see both of those and where the trees are. That is the property line. We know that setbacks are reduced because of the undersized smallness of the lot. Next slide. Okay, so I just got, this is a little closer view, or a lot closer view of the front yard deck. Next slide. Now I'm going down the side yard, the south side yard deck, walking towards the back. That area off the deck, I guess, there's some discussion about re-veg in there. And then I'm going to just proceed to one more to the brick patio, I think is the next slide in the back. Yes, so that's the brick patio. I'm on the north side looking south. Then that's the brick patio on the rear of the property. Next slide. As you can see from the survey, this is the gravel area that is part of the notice that is looking for a rear and side yard relief, and it's very close. That grass is just the only thing that separates that brick patio from that little that seating area. And then, there's discussions about the fencing, I know, in the application marked on the survey. Next slide. And now I've got my back to, I think I've got, can't see. They have my, no, I'm at towards the front of the house again on that northern side yard, just so you can see the sort of lawn area, what vegetation there is. I'm looking, I think, all the way back to that stone patio or gravel patio area. Next, I think there's only one more. That was,
There you go.
okay.
Thank you, Member Mary.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Good evening, board members, council, Mr. Collins, Ms. Young, John Huber of Balsam Schmidt and Huber for the applicants, owners of the property at 48 Treasure Island Drive, Amagansett. Thank you, Ms. Meering, for going out to the property and taking a look.
Of course. Thank you.
I have a copy of the TAM that was prepared, dated May 27, and it is in essence everything that I intend to talk about very quickly. I just want a couple of items to reference there. One of them is at the end in the recommended project conditions, number 1. It references a swimming pool, but there is no swimming pool on the property. So that may be a carryover from the previous template, and it's really of no consequence. I just wanted the record to be clear that there's no, it states, I'm reading from the TAM. A revegetation plan indicates the locations, species, size, and spacing area over the area north, south, and west of the swimming pool. Okay, so minor oversight. The other thing I wanted to just reference is that on the lowest paragraph on page 2 of that, the author indicates that the applicants contest the ZBA's previous findings. It's probably too strong a word. What I did was just take a good forensic examination of all the documentation underlying inclusion that the board made back in 2023 as to the extent of clearing on the property. And I think a reasonable body of evidence exists that indicates that, in fact, that the clearing on the property of native vegetation, at least, was pre-existing non-conforming. And I have an abundance of documentation in the submissions that I made that I can refer to. I won't belabor my presentation. I know the board would like me to be brief tonight, and I intend to do so. So I just wanted to make those few points. I'll be referring during my presentation to some of the materials I've submitted in support of the application since June 12, 2024, when it was first submitted. And the operative document is this survey of existing and proposed conditions, which is terrific. Thank you, Tyler, for having that up. I think the overarching concept here is that although this is a small property, one of the smallest in the town, it's heavily, heavily regulated for natural resources protection purposes due to the presence of secondary dune and native vegetation preservation. My goal here, one of the primary objectives I have tonight, is to really tighten up the record for this property, because over the years, it was built many decades ago, first improved, and some of the property records for any of these properties, this or others in the town, can always use a little tightening up. So people who come before you or future property owners have a nice, tight property history, property record that they can look at when they're making decisions about the property. So interestingly, but for the presence of the secondary dunes on the property, which subject it to the NRSP regulation, the property could be 100% cleared under the residential district regulations that are set forth at Code Section 255-2-60, paragraph A1. And moreover, the property is not in any overlay district that would further restrict clearing. Against this backdrop, we are proposing to revegetate 35% of the property with native species as depicted by the revegetation plan that we submitted back on June 12, 2024. And the areas of revegetation are depicted in green on this survey, including the area along the southern boundary, which is also targeted for some of the plantings that we're proposing, all native species. The property was last before the ZBA for a public hearing in November 2022, and the ZBA issued its determination in January of 2023. At that time, the ZBA denied the location of a small storage shed that had been situated previously along the northern property boundary. So it's called out here in its resized new location up against the house. Previously, it was roughly due north all the way up right on the northern property line. And in the ZBA's 2023 determination, the board said this really would not, the essence of it was it's not a good precedent to allow a structure like that right on the property line. So, and the board also indicated that it was displeased with the extent of clearing on the property, and it referenced a 2008 survey that I believe was ambiguous based on the extent of the forensic review I've done going all the way back to a Walbridge survey from 1973. Now, when I submitted my memo to the board in support of the application, that would have been May 22nd, 2025. Hopefully the board has a copy of that. I submitted with it 2 exhibits. One was a packet of documentation to which I'll refer, and the other packet was Exhibit 2 that contained extensive photographs of some of the other outlying properties in this neighborhood. And I thought that those pictures, 1,000 words, really, those photos really show you the extent of development on the outlying properties in the neighborhood. Relative to that development, I would respectfully submit to the board that this is benign and far below the extent of development that's going on in the outer community. I've worked closely with the applicants. They came to me shortly after the 2023 determination, and they said, gee, we think we can do better here. Can you help us? And I said, sure, let's take a look at it. It's a good board. They're fair. What you have to do, if you're asking for something, you have to be willing to give up some things. So right away, we took a look at the shed. I said, why don't you resize the shed, relocate it up against the house there by the northwest corner? And in fact, the board's 2023 determination had referenced that that might be a suitable location for the shed. I said, let's go one step further and let's resize it. Here's another little thing. There's a tension I see in the code between building permit requirements and natural resources special permit requirements. So for example, this shed has been resized so that no dimension of it is greater than 6 feet. So under the Town of East Hampton Code, Section 255-133, paragraph A1, that shed would be exempt from a building permit because of its size, reduced size, but the way the codes apply, we need an NRSP for it, which implies, if not outright indicates, it's a benign structure, especially where it's located. I submitted back in 2024 several photograph packets. One of them was the shed, showed the previous location and the existing location. Ironically, although the shed is building permit exempt, it does require an NRSP, at least under a strict interpretation of the code. I'll also quickly address here the applicant's small permeable beach stone seating area at the property's northwest corner. In 2024, I submitted a photo packet showing that applicants eradicated, and this is one of the details that I think was lost in the 2023 determination. I guess the implication at that time was that the applicants cleared native vegetation in order to put the seating area in. And really what they did, and the photos bear this out, you can see that the property to the north and the property to the west both have this bamboo. So the applicants eradicated the bamboo there and installed this, I call it beach stone, because very much like the North Shore beaches that we have, that's the kind of stone that's there. So just a footnote here, this really comports with, I think, the policy underlying the NRSP, particularly with dune and the native vegetation. We want to have permeable surface area on the properties to allow on-site stormwater drainage. And the beach stone area comports nicely with that. It's completely permeable or pervious, and any stormwater that would accumulate in that area would easily percolate down. Also, native vegetation is intended for dune retention. The roots hold the sand in place. So the beach stone area holds the sand in place nicely in that location. So in that sense, we live up to the spirit of the NRSP requirements. The other thing too, as far as the area variances go, it's not a vertical structure, so it's not visible or readily discernible from any outlying public areas. And I also question, respectfully, whether or not that stone area is even, that's my timer. I'll speed it up. I'm almost done.
Thank you for
actually.
finishing up.
It's questionable whether that's even structure. It's just pervious stone at grade. And the photos I gave in Exhibit 2 of all the outlying properties in the neighborhood, there's lots and lots of relatively vast stone areas just like that throughout Treasure Island Drive. Okay?
I'd like to, at this point, ask if the board has any questions of you?
Sure,
Before we hear from
that's
the planning
fine.
department?
Absolutely.
Board members?
Yes, but
Were you
may
done
I?
with your presentation? Was you done?
Yes.
I have, if I may, I have just a couple of three
Yeah,
quick
they-
points, and then I'll be done. And then I'm happy to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted on May 22nd my memo. I address everything that I would have wanted
We
to
have it in the record.
speak to you about if I had unlimited time. So we just asked at the ZBA for the NRSP allowing the items listed on page 3 of my memo. These are all depicted on the survey. And I also submitted photo exhibits. And unless the board would like me to discuss specifically why I believe clearing on the property is pre-existing non-conforming, I'll confirm that my memo Exhibit 1 provides all the documentary support for that, although I say that there is reasonable proof of 100% native species clearing as far back as the May 31 Warbridge survey, which doesn't depict any vegetation whatsoever. Pages 7 through 19 of my memo outline the town's NRSP area variance criteria and the ways in which we're compliant. And what consistency with the NRSP criteria is on page 10 through 13 of my memo, and our compliance with the area variance criteria is at 14 through 19. And I can respond to any
Yes,
comments
thank
or
you,
questions
Mr.
that the
Huber.
board has.
Board have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. I have two questions. Let me start first about the revegetation that is proposed. So I just want to reconcile some numbers. I'm looking at the survey dated January 18th, 2024,
sure.
and the section that says clearing note, obviously, it doesn't say on the survey what is the clearing. I think we're being told it's 100% cleared, but
Right.
I don't know if that's the case. But the proposed clearing is 2,609, which is a reduction of rounding 1,400,
Yeah, 14.
1,400 square feet. But when I looked at the proposed landscaping diagram,
Yes.
it lists the square feet of what's being replanted of the different, and it comes to 715, I think, square feet that's noted. So I'm just trying to reconcile the difference between the two.
Would you like me to respond now, or you want to ask?
No,
your other-
please, I'll get
Okay,
that
sure,
second
thank you.
one.
It's a great question, very astute. It's one of the things that I pay very close attention
Get a
to
gold star.
when I prepare. I know the harder I work, the easier it is for you to do what you need to do. There may be some discrepancy, and I examine that. I think what the discrepancy is, and even though it's not close, there is, even though we say that it's 100% cleared, there is some existing vegetation. For example, there's some eastern red cedars along that southern property line. So in my memo at the bottom of page 2, I clarified that we will be revegetating in total, including what's there already, 1,391 square feet, or 35% of the property. And if you're inclined to approve the application the way we approve it, we can submit an as-built survey at the end and make sure that we have that full 35% of the property. Whatever minor is existing, plus the proposed, and we meet that full 35% clearing.
Okay, I'm going to ask the planner later about the vegetation, but my second question gets a little more to, I'm asking you to address a couple of the variance standards, as opposed to,
Of course.
there's an NRSP, and then there's setback variances. So you have this area of beach stone, it needs, right, two different setback variances. And, the couple standards that we have to balance, as you know, are these the minimum variances necessary? And then, of course, we're always trying to balance, against the needs or benefits to the applicant, versus any other effects. So could you address that? And the photos I showed, and the survey shows a fairly, for this, a lot this size, shows a fairly significant areas of decking, right? Front, side, rear. So I'm just not sure, just address those two standards if you would.
Of course, and I do specifically address that on the bottom of, on page 14 in my memo.
Yeah.
I address every.
No, and I've read everything,
it's
sometimes I
fine.
just want to
Okay, sure.
hear
So a couple
from
of
you
things is,
directly.
there's some interplay between these things. So there's very small parcel, and I'm not making that as an excuse. Relative to outlying parcels, basically what the applicants are trying to do is make reasonable enjoyment of the property. And because of the limited size of the property, the outdoor areas, especially with the re-veg, limit the outdoor areas of the property that they can use. So the decking on the south side, for example, is basically for transit, back and forth across the property. As far as just recreational outdoor use, that's what the beach stone area is. They could fit maybe 2 Adirondack chairs at most, and I think they had a little fire pit there.
There's a fire.
And so it's a really low intensive, minimal use, basically intended for quiet socializing or reading. So reasonable use and enjoyment of the property and good faith compliance with the spirit of the code. That's why the code is written, to give a little bit of flexibility to the board. And so they want to comply. They want to maintain that pervious nature of that area. And they also, it's at grade, so there's no vertical obtrusiveness. So I distinguish, okay, and this is the last, unless you'd like me to go. In the code, we talk about substantial, is the variance insubstantial? I like to put a fine point on that. Sometimes there's a quantitative, in this case, 0 setback, right? So that's 100%, but that's quantitatively substantial, but it's not qualitatively substantial, because there's no detriment to the outlying neighborhood. In fact, just earlier this week, the lady who owns the property, I think it's 51 Clinton, she's on the notice list. She called and spoke to me, and she said, we have absolutely no objection. And in fact, they said they planned on eradicating the bamboo on their property. And I said, well, make sure you check with the town and make sure that any permits that you need would be suitable, that you get whatever the.
Any other
Thank
board
you.
members have questions?
Well, I was just going to follow up on what Member Meering said, and that is that your presentation is really based on, we have these two variances you're looking for in the NRSP, and you're offering the revegetation.
Yes.
So the 1,400 square feet is kind of critical in your presentation here, so making sure that we understand 35% is not 700 feet and 1,400 when we start any deliberation. The other thing to consider is that it's not just, when you talked about the gravel there not being any kind of height and any kind of massing, and so as far as it being a detriment, a lot of what we're concerned about with decking and any recreational areas is sound pollution, privacy from neighbors. So that's not the only consideration. The only thing is not merely whether or not this is not a visual eyesore. It has to do with the thing. Now, we start with 50 by 80. You have very little wiggle room, and we understand. But that's asking a lot. You're asking for 0 in one place and 2 foot in the other. These are massive variances, and we have to consider that carefully. So I just want to go back to what Member Meering said, and that is that really what you're coming to us with is 1,400 foot of revegetation. That's basically it. That's it, right? So that's what we have to be sure of, that we're not going to find out at 725 or something later on. And you made your statement.
Sure.
You don't have to make it again.
Understood.
You made your statement.
Many
But I just
times.
want to reiterate that that's what's important. We all understand on this board what happens on these small lots. They're impossible to do things with at times. However, go ahead. I'm sorry, Terry. You want to say something?
Terry?
I thought Terry had
Well,
one.
I was thinking about it, yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment that the property does benefit from the setback is actually 8 feet in this property rather than 10 to accommodate for the small size of the lot. And you have a lot of brick patio that's also at grade. That's already on the property. So, again, going back to the minimum variance required, that's a factor also.
I understand. And I just ask the board some leniency based on the size of the parcel relative to the outlying parcels. And within the totality of the application and existing and proposed conditions on this lot and the outlying properties, I think Exhibit 2 that I submitted in support of the memo shows a lot. And there's, in fact, right up the block on Treasure Island, is a big, big house being built. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, one question I have, Mr. Huber. What was the trigger for the application?
Of course, it's a great question. Thank you. So prior to the 2022 application,
Yeah.
they were having some work done to the deck on the front there, the front deck on the eastern side of the house, some rotted support members and whatnot. So the carpenter was there replacing in place in kind. And someone called code enforcement. Code enforcement came down and said, any work you do here needs the NRSP. And the applicants then had their contractor submit that NRSP application. Say it kindly, could have been some more detail paid attention to, and they appeared pro se at that time. And obviously, they didn't make as many of the points that I've made tonight to sort of fill out this proposal for you, so was the trigger. So they went all the way through the hearing in 2023, and when that didn't work out so well, they said, John, what can we do to strengthen the proposal? And at this point, I feel as though we've done that. Oh, the one other thing is that pathway on the north side of the house will also be pervious stone to promote on-site stormwater drainage and dune retention. That's what that white area
That's all stone?
leading out. And that's on the re-veg plan, which is not up on the screen, but,
I mean, it's lawn-ish right now.
right, so they're going to take out some of that. There's the re-veg plan. You could see it, if I may.
Okay, just,
3-foot path, each stone, which will allow front lawn area to communicate from this point to here. All the rest of this will be vegetated.
With the beach stone.
With the beach stone?
all
Yes,
that white area you're saying is
Yes,
beach
yeah.
stone.
Okay.
So that's that beach stone plus the beach stone on the
that's
little
correct.
patio area. That's,
Thank you, Mr. Huber. You'll have another opportunity to speak, but can we hear
Thank you.
from the planning department now?
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. So this parcel is located on the west side of Treasure Island Drive in Amagansett. The project before the board is to allow an existing gravel area to remain within side and rear yard lot line setbacks, to relocate a shed to then allow it to remain, an existing fence to remain, and to revegetate the property. The subject property is extremely non-conforming to several aspects of the town code, including lot size and lot width. At only 50 feet in width, utilizing the 4/10 rule, a side yard setback of only 8 feet is required for structures. In addition to the lot width and lot size, several existing improvements on the property are also non-conforming to front, side, and rear yard lot line setbacks. It's also worth noting that the parcel is close to the maximum allowable lot, and total lot coverage is allowed in the town code, although they are currently conforming to those maximums. In 2022, the applicant requested approval to allow a shed and concrete pad to remain 1.1 feet from the northern lot line outside the town's pyramid regulations, and outside the town's pyramid regulations, and also sought to approval for 100% clearing on the property. The ZBA denied the request, finding that the shed's location left no room for screening or vegetative buffer and was incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood and natural setting, particularly given that the lot's location within a protected natural area and the cumulative impacts of hardscape improvements on the parcel. The board found that the shed could feasibly be relocated to a more conforming position adjacent to the resident, which would comply with the side yard setback requirement and reduce its overall impact. The current application is requesting a relocated shed to be allowed to remain. The shed was relocated against the residence as suggested in the last application and meets the required setbacks from the side yard lot line. Additionally, gravel area at the rear of the residence requires some significant variances to remain close to the northern and western property lines. The applicants will need to address how the gravel area meets standards. A fence runs through the property that will also require an NRSP to remain due to the presence of beach vegetation. The front yard of the property, the fence is 6 feet in height, so they will also need ARB approval for that small section. The vast majority of the front yard is a 4-foot fence, though, so only a portion of it would need ARB. The applicants, in order to bring the property back into compliance with the most recent CO, are proposing to revegetate the parcel and with beach vegetation to return the duneland character of the parcel. Although the current project reflects a reduction in the degree of physical encroachment compared to the previous application, the most noticeably through the shed's relocation, the site continues to contain accessory structures and hardscape within the protected natural resources area and setback zones. The board should consider whether the requested relief constitutes the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property, and whether the project complies with the variance and NRSP standards. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Board have any questions?
Would comment on the re-veg plan and what the proposal is here and whether you think it's effective and what its problems might be for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it seems reasonable. I think the numbers discrepancies comes between the surveyor probably not counting things that are just trees with no understory, and then the landscaper sort of filling that area in. And so they take some of those trees and use them as part of the re-veg since they're already there, and just add some understory. So the numbers don't add up in that case, but ultimately they're the same. You'll have the same result. There is some native vegetation on the property, but there's no understory, so that counts as cleared according to the town code. They're filling in some of those areas and then adding to them bayberry. There's some dusty miller in there, but there's only a few. It's not technically a native plant, but it's naturalized. And I don't necessarily have any issue with a couple of dusty miller on the re-veg plan, but for the most part, it's bayberry, beach grass. It's pretty standard.
Tyler, does the shed having been relocated eliminate the need for its variance?
Yes, there's no variances for the shed required. It would just be a natural resource special permit for the clearing required for it.
So no
but
area
they're
variance.
Revegetating anyway, so it's sort of.
And the fencing, all of the fencing require natural resource special permit?
Yeah, since it would technically required clearing in order to install all of it. Yeah.
Again, I'm just looking at so all that, the green area is the re-veg, right?
Correct.
And everything that's white, like that's kind of swirling around from on the north to the east side, that's going to be stone.
I think only a portion of it. I think everything in the front of the house
Well,
is
that's
supposed
what
to just be, remain lawn.
I'm looking at the re-veg plan, which yellow is re-veg and then green is lawn, but it looks white up there, and I was just trying to follow what was saying. So that whole section, east of the front deck there, before you get to the green area that's being re-vegged, what is that going to be?
I think that's remaining lawn as it is now.
That's remaining. So, wouldn't, did, I'll ask Mr. Huber at the end, but just thinking about other opportunities for.
Yeah, but the suggestion back in 2022 was to bring the property back to what the CO was. And this would effectually do what the CO was back in 2008, I think it was. Which is why we didn't suggest more, because they already had a certificate of occupancy on a certain amount. That's how we came to that idea.
I'm sorry, what was it in 2008? The clearing you're talking about?
What essentially what they're requesting to bring the property back to. I forget the exact
That's what it
number.
was back then?
Right.
So where do we have the numbers? So it's unusual for me to look at a survey and see a clearing note, but not see it noted what existing clearing is. And where is the last survey? I know I went through them, but
2008
that showed a number.
one, we had to, I don't think the clearing numbers were on there, if I remember correctly. We had to just sort of measure it out as far as how much vegetation was left. It's easier to match how much is left than how much clearing there is, since there's not much on the property. So that's essentially where that came from.
The other question on that clearing note, a lot of times we see that it's cleared up to the maximum, basically, or NRSP.
Right.
This doesn't state that.
There is no maximum on this property. In theory, then if it was a normal lot in the middle of town and somewhere else, they could clear the whole thing. Anything up to
No,
up to 10,000 or 10,999 square feet, you can clear the entire property, as long as you're not in a protected
overridden
area.
by the NRSP, right?
Right. The
Potentially.
natural resource special permit, yeah, it requires them to get a permit to clear it, but there's no maximum clearing limit, just the fact they have to get a permit to do it.
Tyler, if the area of beach stone was of any other material, sand, for example, would it be in compliance?
I don't know. I'd have to talk to the building department to
What
see
is
what
it
their.
about that area, it being stone?
It's like an improved area. It's essentially functions like a patio.
It counts as
Right.
It's like a seating patio area. It's not a walkway, like a gravel walkway doesn't need to meet the setbacks, because it's not a, gathering area. It's not over 4 feet really is what sort of tips it over. Yeah, I don't know if it was sand, I'm not sure.
Or grass.
If it was just grass, then no. And it wouldn't. You can sit on your grass and it doesn't need to meet a setback. As soon as you improve that, though, that's when it becomes a structure.
Got it.
Thank you, Tyler.
Sure.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make a statement? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Mr. Huber, would you like to make a final statement?
Thank you for the opportunity. Just a couple of things. Obviously, you understand the relief that I seek. On page 2 of my memo, I outline, and I think it's important, the property is actually compliant in a couple of regards. Its existing building coverage is 746, which is compliant. The code would require 800, so we're below the building coverage, and then total coverage is 1,980, and the code would allow up to 2,000, so we're compliant there. As far as the fencing along the property boundaries, because it's sort of purpose-driven, because these lots are so close together, it affords them a bit of lateral privacy to the properties to the north and south. Now, as far as the height of the fencing, I asked for an NRSP because it's there and they'd like to keep it. Under the code, fencing in the front yard needs to be 4 feet. So if the board allows us to keep the fencing as a structure, which requires an NRSP, they will have a choice, either cut it down from 6 down to 4, so we don't need to go before the ARB, or keep it at 6 and go before the ARB and ask them to approve the 2 feet with the rational explanation that it helps privacy, especially because there's a lot of parking along these eastern side of these properties. So when people are coming and going with the parking, there's a line of sight, right, to those parking areas in close proximity. And as far as beach stone, as opposed to sand or some other kind of improvement, it adds a little bit of visual texture and diversity in the way that they treat the surface area on the property, as opposed to grass or some other thing. So that's why the benefit that they wanted was to keep the beach stone, because it gave them a little bit of, it gave the property some more personality, sort of in keeping with the NRSP standards of of stormwater drainage, and to retain the sand, which the native planting would also do, but the stone keeps the sand down.
Thank you, Mr. Yerba.
Thank you.
Member Marion, can we have a motion to close the public hearing and record?
Of course, thank you. Wait, let me get my, thank you. In the matter of Alexandra Marie Noble and Rose Melandretos, 48 Treasure Island Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-175-5-20, I make a motion to close the public hearing and close the record.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Okay, moving on to the second public hearing.
Is this yours?
Okay. Nope.
And you're still recording? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Matt. The next public hearing is Karen Kreider, 224 Fairview Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-19-2-28.1. Description is to locate an existing shed and allow an existing fence and stone wall to remain within wetland setbacks, to allow a pool patio to remain within wetland and front yard setbacks, and to allow a wood deck to remain within front yard setbacks. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the Town Code and 6 variances. 4 variances of 22 feet, 52 feet, 15 feet, and 10 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the shed to be relocated 78 feet from the wetland and to allow the fence to remain 48 feet, stone wall 85 feet, and the pool patio 90 feet from the wetland where 100-foot setbacks are required. Two variances of 11 feet and 3.8 feet are required from 255-1110 to allow the pool patio to remain 19 feet from the front yard where 30 is required, and to allow the wood deck to remain 16.2 feet from the front yard where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is an A residence, X flood zone, secret type class, type 2. Council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
Review the affidavits and those posting and everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction over this case.
Thank you, Council. Member Johan, do you have a field inspection?
I do. Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. This is a property that's corner lot, so it had to be posted in two places. We're going to start on Fairview. This is the posting on Fairview. Next, please. Now I'm looking up Fairview Avenue, and everybody who knows what Fairview looks like in Montauk, anyone who does, this is the old racetrack, so I'm looking north here. Next. I'm looking south, fairly straight away here, and we come right down. Next. Then I took a look here across the way, and well, this is up the driveway, rather. This is up Frederick. Next. And I took across the way, give you an idea of the character of the neighborhood. Next. This is immediately to the, what is that? Must be the east of the property. This is the nearest neighbor. Next. Now I'm on Frederick. This is the second posting, and you can see it's properly posted. Next. Here's a picture of the structure as it exists. We'll have some questions about deck as we work our way around here, but this is this house that exists here. Now, okay, you can go to the next. Thank you. Go to the next. Okay. Frederick continues on up, and you see additional structures beyond this parcel. They're further up the small road. It's Frederick Court, very small road. Next. Here I am working my way. I'm going to work my way up. There's the gate you see at the top is going to be taking me to the pool area. This is a stone wall. This is not the stone wall in question, but you get an idea. There's a deck adjacent to this area that's closest to the pool. Next. I'm just taking a look across the pool. There's some comment about the pool, corner of the pool being in jurisdiction, as well as part of the patio. Next. This is the shed that is to be moved to keeping it 78 feet from wetlands. So that's been referenced, and we'll be having a discussion about it next. Here's a stone wall. It's the stone wall. It's also referenced to be to 82 feet where it needs to be 100 feet from wetlands. You can see it extending here to the northwest. I believe that would be the angle. Next. I've just turned from the next one, and I'm looking back. There's the shed that's to be moved, and you can see a continuation of this wall. You see it's a stacked stone wall, and you can see what it does. It retains one elevation to another. Next. I'm taking a look directly behind. There's a fence that's going to be in discussion. We see this fence, it's wire fence. I'm looking through it back into the native properties in the back. I mean, there's some wetland area back in there. Next. Again, another view of the fence. I came back here just so we have an idea. We're looking across. Some of the area that's been discussed for revegetation is the area to our right. As this extends off, we'll look at a survey and have that discussion. But part of our re-veg conversation will include that area to the right of the fence. Next. Yeah, I'm looking back here. There's going to be a little bit of re-veg in one area here, but again, looking back relative to stone wall to the house. Next. Well, this is a little closer. Now I walked over. This is the actual area that's been signified as being part of the re-veg. Next.
That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Member Johan. Is there a representative here to speak on behalf of the application?
Good evening, Chair Joel Halsey.
This is uncomfortable. I know.
Oh, okay.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Good evening, Chairwoman Savarese and board members. Joel Halsey on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, representing the property owner, Karen Kreider, who's in the audience tonight. The application, as required to be noticed by the town, does require 6 variances. Regarding the four wetland variances, excluding the fence, none of the other requested variances are substantial. The fence is proposed to remain 48 feet from the wetlands. This fence provides a good delineation between the scenic easement and the rest of the property. That will kind of halt the people from accidentally clearing further into the scenic easement again. It's a simple post and wire fence that has been installed on this property for decades. Other than the portion of fence that was recently removed from the scenic easement and relocated outside of the scenic easement. Initially, part of the fence had been moved into the scenic easement, but they have since moved it out of the scenic easement to be along the scenic easement line. The retaining stone wall was built 85 feet from the wetlands. This wall has been in place for decades. This wall was purpose-built. During the construction of the pool, the excavation was placed within the upland side of the wall, which the wall is here. When they excavated up for the pool, the excavation over on this side. Rains would create sedimentation and turn this area into a big mess. It was recommended that Karen install the retaining wall. This wall would serve the purpose of retaining the fill. The wall has done its job while preventing sedimentation and has been vegetated well, as you can see by the pictures that Member Johan had taken. And also, I'd like to commend Member Johan about bringing up the racetrack on Fairview. A little history in Montauk there. Those of you who don't know, that Fairview was designed originally to be a racetrack, wasn't it? Yeah. The shed, which has also been in place for decades, was delivered to the site and installed in its current location. This seemed simple enough to the property owner at the time. Currently, we do propose to move the shed further from the wetland so that it is 78 feet away, increasing the conformity of the shed. This area will then be revegetated, increasing the buffer between the upland development and the wetland. The pool patio, which does require two variances, a 10-foot variance to be 90 feet from the wetlands and an 11-foot variance to be 19 feet from the front yard lot line. The variance from the wetland is very minor. In fact, only about 20 square feet of that patio is within 100 feet of the wetlands. With regard to the front yard variance, please note the shape of the property line and the roadway itself. As you can see, that Frederick Court and the property line have kind of that rounded shape, which is very atypical of properties within the town itself. Frederick Court on paper is a road, but it only serves 3 other properties. No other properties will be served by this road. The road is not finished and probably never will be. Then the atypical shape of the lot line, as I discussed. The lot line is rounded in the front yard, and the area of the pool patio at its closest point is 19 feet from the property line. The distance does increase to about 26 feet. As you can see from around, the pool patio does. As you come around this way, it increases in setback to the property line. So, although it is 19 feet at its closest point, it does get 26 feet away from the front yard property line at its furthest point. The patio was also purpose-built. As you enter the pool area, there was the gate. As you walk from the driveway up the stairs into the gate, as you enter the pool, there was a height difference between the ground and the top of the existing patio that was built with the pool originally. And it was about a 2-inch gap that was a trip hazard and people were tripping on it. Mm-hmm. So it was recommended that she kind of just extend the patio out to the gate. So when you open the gate, you don't step down 2 inches and walk a couple feet and trip over the patio. The patio has prevented this, although this is not an excuse. The person who did build the patio did tell the property owner that he did not need permits to do this. This is an unfortunate occurrence in East Hampton when property owners rely on professionals for advice that they believe they can trust. I understand that the board does hear this excuse a lot, and for the most part, it is an accurate excuse. I have heard the board say at the end of the day that the buck stops with the property owner, meaning that they should know when something gets built on their property, they should know what the zoning is and how, but for the most part, you hire a professional and you rely on that professional. And when you hire that professional to do something, you expect that they know what they're doing and they're going to do it right. Doesn't always happen in the town of East Hampton. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Now, the final variance is required for a 4.8 foot variance to allow a small walkway connection between the front wood deck to an existing egress. The front deck has an egress from Ms. Kreider's bedroom to the outside. The small walkway will allow her to exit her bedroom quickly and get down to the ground level away from the house in any type of an emergency. Ms. Kreider is in her 70s, and this just makes it easier for her to get out of her house if there was an emergency. For all intents and purposes, this is just a simple walkway. Although at its widest point, it is approximately 10 feet. It is constructed angular, so that it narrows down to about 4 feet. At 10 feet, where it's at its widest point, it is 20 feet from the front yard lot line. And at that point, it does meet the proper setbacks. When it comes down to about 6 feet, that's where it drops below 20 feet. And then at 16.2 feet, the walkway is essentially a 4-foot wide walkway, which would be exempt from setbacks under the town code. That all said, it's like I said, it's only a small walkway, 4 feet and less than 20 feet from the 20 feet from the front yard lot line. The variance request for the walkway is minor and should meet all the variance standards of the town code. Thank you in advance for your time tonight. I trust that you have all had a chance to review my memo regarding the variance and NERSIP standards, so I'm not going to go into them tonight. Hopefully the power won't go out. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board members? A couple.
Sure.
Is the walkway there today?
Yeah, the walkway exists.
Oh,
Is it on?
and
Is it this?
so it's in that area you just
This
showed
is
us, the 20.6 to the 16?
This is the parking area. You walk up these stairs, and you can walk here, you can walk, there's an entrance here, and you can walk around here, which is essentially less than a 4-foot wide. And here, the area in question is 16.2 feet. As you go further here, you're on the deck. And once you get to, roughly where it gets to its widest point, it meets the proper setbacks.
Okay, but that where you were saying before, up the steps, that's a deck also, right? That's off the,
Right here?
no, on the other side, there.
Yeah,
Right here.
There's
that
a
little
deck
bit, is that a
going.
deck?
That little bit is a deck that goes across, right?
It's a walkway. These are
So you're
steps.
calling it, well, there's steps and then,
Yeah,
oh, it's a wooden walkway. It's like an elevated deck from what I saw. Yeah, it's like an elevated deck, that walk, what you're calling a walkway. Okay, yeah, okay, so that was it. One other question, you had submitted a memo that you attached a survey fixing the total lot coverage typo.
So the total, for some reason, the total lot coverage had,
Which one's right? Because I've
this is the correct one.
dated the
This
same
is the
way.
correct one,
Okay.
yes.
And
The date of
so
that
the
one?
total lot coverage that's correct is?
5,286 square feet.
Okay, so that's this one.
And the correct survey we're working from is,
224.
That would be May 22nd, 2024. Yeah.
But both of them, yeah, they're both dated the same. The only thing is that lot coverage number.
Oh, yeah, he didn't change it. Yeah, he did not change the date. Changed the lot coverage, fixed the lot coverage, but he didn't change the date. That would have been done recently, so that should have been a 2025 date. Oh, yeah, 5/22.
Handwritten.
The received date was the 16th of June.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Where's
which
the
one?
handwritten?
This date right here?
We could go by that.
They didn't even change. The date on the
Does he see
stamp
it
is still
change?
5/22.
Oh,
look at it here.
Oh, mine's not stamped received.
Mine is.
Yours
Wait,
is?
which, now, I thought I had the right.
Yeah, I'm
survey.
received.
Sorry, it would be
No,
June
received?
6,
You said
2025.
No, received that date down there, 6/16/25.
Oh, mine's not stamped
Yeah,
either.
mine's not stamped. Okay,
All right,
this is it.
so this is it without the stamp. Okay, so,
Right,
thank you.
right. With this number in the
Right.
lot coverage, right, that's the
Does the
right
board
one.
have any other questions for
Yeah.
Yes, I
Mr.
do.
Halsey?
Joel, you said that the fence that was inside of the easement has been moved.
Yes,
That's been corrected?
that has been corrected.
So even though, I don't know if
It
it's
doesn't show on the survey, yes. Is that all?
survey, yeah, but
After
that's
the-
been moved out. So now what we're looking at is a fence that follows exactly along the line of the easement.
That is correct.
Okay.
And-
And what about, I mentioned, and did I speak incorrectly, that there's going to be some revegetation in that downward corner there?
There will be, vegetation.
Yeah.
The area of the
Yeah.
shed is going to be moved over to here.
Right.
And this guy over there.
So the area that was disturbed by the shed, that once it's moved, will get revegetated. And that bit of a peninsula, that arrow that's coming off that point is going to come some vegetation back from there.
That is correct.
And do we have that plan? Did I not look at it?
No, we have not submitted a plan. We will submit a plan.
That'll be something that would, I guess we'll have to condition if they can move forward about where that line is going to be.
Correct.
And we'll have that discussion, I'm sure. Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
Mr. Halsey.
Welcome to I don't know, I haven't seen you at the top up there yet, so this will be my first time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Congratulations, I think.
I'm not sure that's in. How long has the owner, the current owner, owned this property? So virtually every structure on the property has been built or
It's been, yeah.
added during the current ownership?
If I'm not correct, if I'm incorrect, I believe this was probably built as a spec house.
No, we need to have you speak at the microphone, please.
Can't-
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
I mean, if she speaks, she has to identify herself for the
Yes,
record.
so all the additions were built in the early 90s. Everything was done in the early 90s. The pool was built in 91. So I believe there should be a CO survey
Yeah.
on file.
Yeah.
Um,
You want it?
Yeah, if you could pull that up, so you could see what was done in 1990. So essentially, the only new,
Just the CO.
so here's the original, this is the original. There's a deck built here, which doesn't show on it. I believe there was a permit issued for that. And then, so the deck addition here, the wall here, kind of the line of the fence, I guess. And then the shed was installed right in
There's no patio on the pool on that?
there. I believe there is, there was,
There's the pool.
oh, you know, it might have been in 91, it would have been the brick and sand where they wouldn't have required building permits or that to be shown on a survey.
And what was the trigger for the variances for the application?
Trigger for the application. Oh, God, it's been so
Why are you
long.
in front of us?
Why? It's been a while. Well, because there are structures that were built without proper permitting. Now it's been so long that I can't remember why.
Where's the property card?
Oh, I know why. I opened right to it. Ms. Kreider applied for a building permit to do a small addition to her house, and it was noticed that there were issues with the house, so they couldn't issue a building permit.
It's on the building card. Can I ask, I'm sorry, are you,
No, we're done.
one just small technical question about this survey. Maybe it's my squinty eyes, but I don't see the setbacks for the pool patio relative to the lot line. Just usually the things that are noticed, usually you see them.
It's not on
as
the,
other-
It's not on this, no, it's not. Sometimes it's asked for, sometimes it's not. This wasn't put on.
one for the sheds.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I was just
But
curious.
if you put a scale to the survey, it'll show.
Yeah, how far is the shed today? You say you're improving the setback, but by how much?
I'd have to put a scale to that myself too. I'd have to go to my bag, which I do not. Do you have a scale on you by any chance?
I don't.
No? I have one in my bag. I left it in the car. Let's
in this
see. I can do it. I can
It's-
figure it out. Give me 1 second. 1 inch equals 40 feet. Maybe I can't.
I got it on the screen, Joel.
Oh, you got it? Okay, there we go.
It's about 68.
68 feet.
68,
That's the current.
yeah. So you're improving it by 10 feet.
I'm sorry, you might have said this and it might have bounced off my ears. What, the recent application for a building permit was to do what?
A small addition to the residence.
That's not shown anywhere.
No, because it's not part of the zoning board application, and the addition would have met zoning, so it would not have been there. So when she went to the building department to get the building
You don't
permit,
have the plan.
I wasn't part of the project for the plans or anything like that, but when she brought the application to the building department, that's when the issues arose.
That was done
She
in
didn't even know that.
2022?
What's that?
That was done in 2022? Was that the building?
Let's see.
It's on the-
Won't open right up to it this time. Let's see. She submitted that in July 20th, 2022, and then it was rejected after that date.
You don't happen to know when the subdivision was drawn, do you? You don't have to look it up. We'll look it up. We got
Yeah,
a property card.
right. That's,
Are
we ready?
1927, is it on the survey? Yeah, there it is, 1927.
Does the board have any more questions?
Good, thank
No, I'm
you.
good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Halsey. Can we hear from the planning department, please?
Good evening, board. Morgan Slater for the planning department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So the application is to legalize some existing structures that are within wetland and front yard setbacks. The property is considered a corner lot, and it does have a pretty irregular shape, and that has resulted in a large front yard lot line. It's a pretty unique corner lot because it doesn't really seem that way, because it's, you would assume that it's actually a Fairview Ave address, and that Frederick Court is just a driveway, but it is actually considered a street in the town system. So it is the front yard, it is a front yard lot line on that entire curved part. The property is within the water recharge overlay district. It's presently overcleared, so the applicant is proposing to bring the clearing limits into compliance. The wetland in the southwest corner of the property connects to a pretty substantial wetland system, which includes Peters Run. The area contains extensive freshwater wetlands that are part of a complex drainage system, which much of the surface and groundwater flows into the southern half of Lake Montauk. Many of the freshwater wetlands in this area have been filled, ditched, and culverted over time as the construction of the roads and residential improvements occurred over the course of the last 100 years. Many of the freshwater wetlands while fragmented, many of the wetlands are biologically diverse. They act as valuable wildlife habitat and serve as a buffer to Lake Montauk. The property received a natural resources special permit for the construction of the residence in 1990, and then in 1991, there was an admin NRSP issued for the construction of the pool. The front yard variances, I think, not super relevant to the NRSP aspect. And again, they're pretty unique because of the shape of the lot and the nature of the neighborhood that this is within. Most of the variances to the wetland can't really be considered substantial. The substantial variances are for the fence, and the shed is being, it's not a substantial variance, but the shed could potentially be moved to a more conforming location than where it's proposed. The fence is proposed 48 feet from the wetland at its closest point. And the planning department sometimes does actually recommend that fences run along a scenic easement, so that way there isn't clearing, there's an unknowing clearing within the scenic easement, especially when there's a change of property owner. Some of these things aren't known to property owners. In those cases, though, we do recommend it be like a split rail fence. The concern of the planning department when it comes to fences within wetland setbacks is an impediment to the movement of wildlife. Joel mentioned that this fence has been here for decades. It doesn't, it's hard to see on aerials, so I can't confirm that, but given that it's been there for so long, it's probably integrated within the buffer. But again, the planning department, if we are going to recommend a fence along a scenic easement, it wouldn't typically be a split rail fence. And I can answer any questions the board may have.
The stone wall, which portion of it is the 82 feet, all the way down at the lower portion right up against, is requiring?
Yes, I believe it's on the more southern portion.
We saw a C of O survey that had the stone wall except for the very lower portion of
The CO, so the structure that's on the CO, it's probably hard to see on the screen, is actually the pool fence, not the wall.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
You mentioned Peters Run.
Mhm.
So what
So-
area is that covering?
This, maybe I might have an aerial where it comes up. It's not as zoomed out as I would like it to be. So this is the wetland down here, and it kind of goes into a much larger wetland over here. Peters Run kind of flows south and then east of here. It's beyond, the jurisdiction of this property, but this wetland is a part, it does connect to
That
Peters
whole
Run.
system that goes around the golf course?
Yes, so it's a part of that whole system that's around the golf course.
Peters Run is on the far side of Fairview as well.
Yes, yeah, it's all across the street, and there's culverts going through Fairview.
And it's part of that whole system that ultimately goes to Lake Montauk.
Yes.
Morgan, you pose a question in the TAM that I'm not sure got answered as to what will result in the 242 square feet decrease.
Yes. So that was, I think Joel addressed that was, I think a discrepancy on the surveyor's calculations with the coverages. There's no change in the proposed coverage
That was
on this
A
property.
survey error.
Correct. Yeah, and so the survey that was received on June 16th, 2025 is the most recent survey, and that is correct with
Correct,
regard to the
yeah.
coverages.
Since the TAM raises it, and you mentioned, I think you said you do believe there is a site where the shed could be located to perhaps, I don't know, not need a variance or even a smaller one. Did you have a view, or maybe we should be
I
asking
mean,
that
the
too?
most conforming location on the lot would be in like the northeast area. I believe that there is probably, it's not a large area, but when it comes to conforming with all setbacks, it does exist in that part of
And
the
if you
property.
can. We good?
I'm good.
Thank you, Morgan. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the application? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Joel, would you like to make a final statement?
Yeah, I'd just like to make one statement about the shed. There really isn't any
my
conforming, this is the most conforming location. There's no location in the front yard that you could put it to be 30 feet from the property, because it's an accessory structure. It would need to be 30 feet from the front yard. So there would be no location there. If you tried to squeeze it into the side yard, it'd have to be 20 feet from the side yard. That would put it basically attached to the house. There's, you could tear down part of the retaining wall and maybe, put it where the pool equipment is. But again, there's structure there already that's been there for there's no real conforming location for this shed to go that would be, and then obviously if, the shed's serving its purpose, because obviously you can see Ms. Kreider likes the garden, and this is her garden shed.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Johan, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion in the application of Karen Kreider, 224 Fairview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-19-2-28.1, to close the public hearing and the public record at this time.
Good night. Thank you.
A second. Oh, go ahead. Take this.
Concur?
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. We did it.
Okay, moving on. The next application is Rolando Mendoza Rivas, 94 Cooper Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-160-3-1. Description is to allow an existing pool with associated equipment to remain within the minimum front yard setbacks. Relief sought is 2 variances of 10 feet and 8.4 feet pursuant to 255-1110 of the East Hampton Town Code are needed to allow the pool equipment and pool to remain 20 feet and 21.6 feet from the front yard lot line where 30 is required. Zoning district is B Residence X and secret class is type 2. Council, do we have an affidavit of service and posting in order?
The affidavits, notice of posting, everything appears to be in order, and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you, Council. Member Thorson, do you have a field inspection ready?
I do. Thank you very much. This is a view of, there are 2 front yards here. This is facing north, the Cooper Lane front yard, Cooper Lane being on the left. Next, please, Morgan. This is from the street. You can see the posting. It's properly posted on both Cedar and Cooper Lane. This is looking in the northeast direction. Next, please. This is the second front yard. This Cedar Street is on the left, past the hedges, and this is looking east. You can see the pool equipment on the right, and in the far distance, you can see the north end of the pool. Next, please. This is standing on Cedar Street looking east. You can see that it's well protected by hedges. Next, please. This is standing in the Cedar Street yard looking east. You can see the north end of the pool. Next, please. And this, I've walked down Cedar Street to the east, and I've now turned and I'm looking west. I'm at the east end of the property, basically the northeast corner of the property line, looking west. And you can see on the left, just to the left of the fire hydrant is the Cedar Street notice. Next, please. This is standing at the pool, looking in a northerly direction. So you can see that row of hedges in the back there is along Cedar Street, and I think that might be it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have someone here on behalf of the application? Hi, I have to swear you in. Sure. Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Anthony Hobson, and I'm here on behalf of Rolando Mendoza as the designer for this project. This project started in late 23, was permitted, say, the winter of early 24. Took probably all of 3 weeks for the permit. I was surprised we got that permit so quickly. The client is a young builder out here, very ambitious. 3MB is his company. He built the house, he does all the landscaping, and I say within a month of getting the permit, the pool was in. The pool was approved initially from the town. We had it staked by Borelski. It had to be physically staked on a property, so when they did their inspection, they approved it. And then, like I said, they approved the building permit early that winter, and my guy just went. So I would say early summer, there was a stop work order because this was an older structure, and they were lifting the house and they were changing the height of the building itself.
So it had nothing to do with the pool?
Nothing to do with the pool.
Right.
So the work stopped, we resubmitted, and then we were approved again and kept on going. And then by the time we were looking to close out later that year, I think maybe late August, as we're walking out, Joe Palermo gave us the approval. And as I'm walking out, he says, "Hold up, something's wrong with your pool." And by that time, the plumbing was in, everything was in. And so now here I am before you trying to get an approval.
And what did he say the problem was with the pool?
It was a front yard setback.
Right.
Off of Cedar Street.
And they just failed to notice that when they issued you your building permit?
Correct. And so now we're here looking for relief from Cedar Street. As you can see, Cedar is heavily vegetated. It's actually double planted with a sound barrier fence as well, just trying to give you that buffer. So that's where we are today.
Does the board have any questions?
Would it be fair to think that the Cedar Street side was originally interpreted as a side street setback? And
Yes, sir.
Mary, did I?
I guess maybe this really should be for the planner, but I'm looking at this document in our file that's called existing conditions. So it would have been taken by the planners, not that at some point, but so it showed the pool structure in, but not fully completed. And now I see there's a pool that is lovely and full of delicious water right now. So I actually don't know, like, if there's no CO on the pool, should it have been completely finished and can it be used at this point? But
Gotcha. Like I said, when we got
There's no
the
CO on it,
second
right?
approval
At this
to
point, there can't be
continue,
one.
the building department allowed us to finish the project.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
You got a building permit to allow you to put the pool where it is now, but it wasn't conforming when they came for CFO, is that it?
Yes, sir.
He was in compliance with everything.
Right.
And only really became aware when you did construction on your residence? And a
It only
stop
became
work
aware
order
when
was
we
issued?
were reinstated to begin rebuilding again for the second approval.
Right.
Because the structure grew in height, so therefore they want to reapprove it. They want to verify it with the surveyor. And literally, as they gave me the approval the second time, as I'm leaving, he looked at it in 5 seconds and said, "You got a problem with your swimming pool."
And at
by
that point,
time,
everything
that
was
pool
done.
was
Right.
done.
Long done. Okay. Questions?
I'm good.
No. Thank you, sir. Can we hear from the planning department?
Hello, board. Morgan again,
Hello,
planning
Morgan.
department. We don't have a ton more to add. I do want to make a correction to its discrepancy in the TAM. The current lot cover, I think I wrote the wrong number for what the lot coverage is in the TAM. It is 1,672 square feet, where the maximum allowable is 4,319 square feet. The pool and associated equipment were constructed under a building permit where the proposed setback in that permit is consistent with the as-built conditions. It is ultimately the homeowner's responsibility to comply with the code. In this case, the Cedar Street setback, it's just a front yard setback, and it's not doubled. So it's just the standard accessory structure setback of 30 feet. A side yard setback for this lot is 10 feet, so doubled, it's 20 feet. So it's conforming on the other two property lines. I can answer any other questions that the board may have about this property or its history.
Any
There was a lot of work
questions,
done in
board
the last year, so.
I have no questions.
Explained it.
I think it's been explained very well. Are we good? Is there anything else you would like to enter? Okay. Member Thorson, would you like to close? Oh, I'm sorry, hold it. Stop. Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for coming here tonight. What?
Can I
you're
ask
gonna ask?
counsel about just, as relates to, because there was a memo into the file from David Saskis asking, so it's a public comment. So just want to ask counsel, he's saying, he's asking at the sight line triangle. And I just want to know, do we have jurisdiction over that, counsel? Because it would seem to, or is that a building department or a highway department issue? Okay. I just wanted to get that on the record.
Okay, Member Thorson, do we have a motion to close the public?
Yes, we
hearing?
do, regarding the application of Rolando Mendoza Rivas at 94 Cooper Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-160-3-1. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Second it?
Concur.
I concur.
Okay. The next public hearing is actually a continuation of a public hearing that took place on May 20th. It's for Susan Lehman, 7 Outlook Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-57-4-7. Description is to legalize an existing floating dock and to construct 1,606 square foot, 2-story residence, 262 square foot dock, approximately 925 square foot patio, an IA sanitary system, and to utilize an existing 324 square foot fisherman's cottage as an accessory structure with plumbing on a parcel of land containing a bluff and tidal wetland. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code. Zoning district was B residence X flood zone, AE 7 foot, and the secret class is type 2. Because this is a continuation, I don't believe there was a necessity to post the property. Okay. And we already have had a field inspection, so do we have a representative here on behalf of the application?
Hey, Howard. Alex Truly.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So just to give you a couple updates, when we were here a month ago, I believe there were two primary points which we were looking for clarification on. One was the status of the dock, and the afternoon of the hearing, the trustees sent a letter to you all saying that there were some incongruencies between the dimensions of the dock in their documents and what is shown on the survey. We went to the surveyor, we sent documents to the trustees and filed a permit for application, an application for a dock permit that was approved last night unanimously by the trustees. I believe they sent a letter to Samantha and to Chairman Deline stating as such and saying that they have no problem with this application. So we hope that closes out the issue of the dock and moves us forward towards legalization. There was also a question as to the labeling of the pre-existing fisherman's cottage, and it had previously been called a dwelling on the survey. We had our surveyor amend that labeling to name it as a pre-existing non-conforming accessory structure with a bathroom to remain. The definition in the town code of a dwelling is a structure used for living, sleeping, or cooking purposes. We would argue that as there is no shower, no kitchen or bed in this structure, it does not meet the definition of dwelling, and it will not after the work that we do here. The only work proposed to that cottage is to provide new utility services from the main dwelling and to reshingle it. All of those scopes of work are permissible alterations to a non-conforming building as they do not increase the degree of non-conformity.
Does the board have any questions?
I have a question about the dock for you, and that is that it's been approved.
Yes.
Congratulations. You originally had a T dock there, and now there's this dock as an L. So what was approved was not the original T dock. It's configuration we see on the drawing.
They have approved exactly what is on the drawing and what exists today.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a T in 2000 until 2006, I believe, and at that point it became the L, and so it's been that way since 06.
And they approved that last
Hold on.
night.
Anyone else have a question?
Did you have a
So
question?
is the plumbing coming out of the accessory?
No, the plumbing's not coming out.
Are you willing to covenant?
Yes, we are. As we stated,
No living in that cottage?
we are. We're willing to covenant that there will be no living in that cottage and that it will not be rented.
Separately, right?
No, right. So they wouldn't, Eric Brown, Ackerman Partners, 34 Panago Road for the applicant. Good evening, members of the board. Yes, there would be, so what my partner, Mr. Goldstein, is saying that we would, we would agree to covenant not to rent that structure separately. We would take the position, Charlie, I'm not entirely sure we're willing to covenant, but from our perspective, there's nothing we're doing here that is increasing the degree of nonconformity of this structure. And I think I'll defer to Morgan, but it appears from the town records that all of the nonconformities that exist now arose before the adoption of zoning in East Hampton. So we would take the position that this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure that we're allowed to retain, provided, if we were going to do something to increase one of the nonconformities, which would be the size, which would be the use, for instance, putting a kitchen in, or we were going to expand the bathroom or do something like that, that would be an event that obviously all of you would have jurisdiction over. At this point, we believe this is essentially a pre-existing nonconforming structure about which they're doing nothing more than ordinary maintenance. They are hooking it up to the new sanitary, which I suppose could be, could be a basis for jurisdiction for you guys. But, our response would be if that couldn't be done, then we just leave it the way it is. We would treat it as any other pre-existing non-conforming structure in the entirety of the town. But we are willing to covenant.
And I think I appreciate that, because it's reasonable for us to ask you to do that.
Oh, of course, no,
Since
we
the
understand.
cottage- Let me finish, please.
Yeah.
The cottage was always the principal, and now you're putting on another building.
Well,
so-
I just want to be very clear. It never qualified as the definition of a residence because it has never had any kind of cooking facilities. So
So
if,
I'm happy to hear
yeah,
that you're willing
that we're willing to covenant,
that
which,
this will not be rented or
right.
someone to live
Right,
in.
exactly. I mean, and if the
have
board
friends that
wants
would
to
love to
include
cottage.
a covenant that we will, in the covenant that we will not, that we won't apply for a kitchen, we're happy to do that,
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that you're willing to do that. I really do.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to answer any other questions. We have a small army of people here. If you have questions, Mrs. Lehman is here and her son are here. She's the property owner. If you have any questions, please
Thank you. Member
feel free to
Berger?
ask
I don't
any.
know, I
Sounds
just
like
don't
you're
see when
ready.
is it legal.
Well, I'm sorry.
Just
What is your
because
question?
Somebody's decided it's pre-existing non-conforming, but when was that structure legal on?
Right.
Is just no record?
There was no record, right, of the BP or the CO ever. It was at the,
Right.
There was no record of a permit or a C of O for this structure ever.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And now
Can you,
finding it as an accessory structure.
and can I
with
swear you
plumbing.
in? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a lawyer.
Yeah.
Two lawyers. Oh, my God. We're being graced with,
We have a magic act together.
Is there
So
really a
could you-
question about whether how long it's existed on the property?
what?
Sorry, I didn't get-
It came onto the property before there were
zoning law.
necessity of actually legalizing
nothing
it.
has ever been done until today, till now, with this application. Nothing has ever been done regarding that structure or property until this application.
Well, I can't say that nothing has ever been done to it, but I know that my client hasn't done anything to it, and I know that it's been there. I mean, it may have, the siding looks pretty good for a building that's been there since the 40s, so I can't say that they haven't done maintenance on it, but it is an accessory building.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for the planning department? Morgan, are you going to speak this
Yeah.
evening? Okay.
Does she have a choice?
She might want to,
Morgan Slater for the planning department.
because we already
again.
had a hearing, so we know how she goes.
So this property is on the west side of Outlook Ave, and it has water frontage to the northeast section of 3 Mile Harbor. It is in the Harbor Protection Overlay District, which has more restrictive clearing regulations. There's currently 9,350 square feet of clearing, where 10,000 is the maximum permitted on this lot. It's also within 3 Mile Harbor is also New York State significant fish and wildlife habitat, and it's a component of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Area. We kind of touched on this at the prior hearing. The planning department's recommendation with regard to the revegetation is for it to extend 50 feet past the tidal wetland delineation. And the board had requested like a visual of what that looks like. So I'm going to pull one up that I just threw together, and this is just reflective of what the planning department's recommendations were in writing in the TAM. And I believe, there's also the recommended area of the project limiting fence there. I believe it just extends about 12 feet further than what is currently proposed, and rough area between 600 and 650 square feet of additional revegetation. This is a recommendation from the planning department because this is within the Harbor Protection Overlay District. That prioritizes not only the actual quality of the water itself, but the habitat around the harbor. And the recommendation is for there to be woody species, which I believe the revegetation plan that was submitted by the applicant reflects that recommendation. We're just asking for it to basically be in compliance with the minimum clearing setbacks for wetland, which is 50 feet. It would provide a better buffer than what's there now to 3 Mile Harbor, which is a compromised water body within the town. Something else that I do want to note about the floating dock, there are different standards for the town NRSP versus what the trustees have. So a trustee's approval doesn't necessarily mean that it it meets the NRSP standards. There are separate standards for those. One of those standards being the water depth for a floating dock should be at minimum 3 feet. In this case, that does not exist. There's a bathymetric survey in the file where the water depth just does not reach that in this part of the harbor. Additionally, section 255-5-51, which has these regulations for floating docks, specifies that docks cannot be any wider than 5 feet. This dock has a dimension of 7 feet. The planning department's recommendation is for the dock to be in compliance with that 5-foot width. I think that since there's been a floating dock here since the 80s, it's pretty safe to say that the separation to the bottomlands being less than 3 feet is a pre-existing condition. But since the dock has changed in orientation after the NRSP standards were put in place, I'm not sure the same can be said for the width of the dock. Besides that, I don't really have much else to add that hasn't already been discussed, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Thank you,
Relative to
Morgan.
the dock, we're not replacing in kind, in other words. It's not as if we're looking at the previous dock and saying this is a replacement in kind. You're looking at it as a new structure, therefore the 5-foot width. I mean, I don't know if the previous dock was 7 foot wide.
Yeah, there's no way for us to know how wide that dock was.
No, you'd have to go back there. So it might have been 5 feet forever.
Well, the 1983 dock into when the NRSP, there's no way to know if that was in conformance with the width. We do know that there was a dock there. We just don't have any specifics because of the lack of building history on this lot.
So it probably always was in shallow water anyway.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And when was it rebuilt? Or
It's changed in orientation over time. There's aerials in the file. Around 2006, I think, is when something similar to this orientation came up. I think it can definitely be said that 2013 is when this exact orientation was put in place.
Thank you.
Any questions for Morgan?
I'm fine.
No, but I
No.
Mr.
will have a
Brown, I have a question for Mr. Brown.
Hmm.
At the last public hearing,
Yes, Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
because this is in a harbor protection overlay
Yes.
district, I really was asked if
Yeah.
any additional revegetation would be considered. And we were told no. So I'm wondering if you would be
Yeah,
amenable
we
to
would,
that.
but yeah, I understand.
Because
that-
of the fact
Yes.
that it's in a harbor protect, and you're asking for a lot, and I think we
I-
have to learn to give and take a little bit here.
And I am about to give. So yes, that's fine. There was a discussion about extending the buffer.
Yes.
I was at my daughter's graduation hoping that all the money we've spent is going to yield wonderful results for my aging wife and I. And there was a discussion of that. And I think,
Yes.
having spoken to the client, we can increase the depth of that
That would be
buffer
excellent. So
further
you would
landward.
be amenable to what's being recommended by the
Yes,
planning board?
and to the extent that there's a question about the width of the floating dock,
Yes,
actually, Mrs. Lehman is here. She has more of the history on it, but I think we would
thank
be able
you.
to.
You can come to that, thank you. I just have to swear you in.
I aver and swear.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
The dock is made out of plastic.
Say yes?
Yes, yes, yes. I do.
One more
And
time.
I need you to
I'm
address.
Susan Lehman,
Thank
and I
you.
own this property. We're all about giving. The dock is made out of plastic, like planks.
Okay.
And when it was a T shape,
Mhm.
the planks were in one direction. And then when they turned it into an L, they took the planks and put them side by side. So each plank they're all the same. They're all 3 by 5. But they're 6 when you put 2 of them together. Does that make sense?
Yes, does to me.
So
I'm a
so
boater.
That's why what Morgan was saying, that they're wider because
Mm-hmm.
they took the T and turned it into an L, and that required taking 2 3 by 5s and making them 6 by 5. I did better on my verbal SATs.
Thank you.
So this is the sixth one.
Question
Any
for
questions?
council-
Sure.
for Council, actually, again.
We have a question for council.
Yes, is that okay?
Sure, of
Okay,
course.
so I just want to make sure I'm straight on the notice here, because it says, obviously, we have to grant an NRSP for the construction and all the work, but where it says we're being asked to approve utilizing an existing 324, blah, 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 with plumbing. So are we granting, are we granting a variance to the accessory structure code? I just really want to understand specifically what, as a board, we'd be granting, if you know what I mean. Or is it, so, because I want to make sure I get the standards right and.
Basically making it you're going to be confirming that this is a accessory structure with plumbing. This property, as I said, has no property history. This was before zoning, for building permits. They didn't come in. I'm speaking as like a local. This is a bubby shack. That's what I'm assuming that there was nobody did anything back here with permits. They just went and built a bubby shack. So there's no permits, there's no history. So I think what we'll be doing now is basically putting it on the record. And it was an accessory.
Okay.
Legalizing it.
Legalizing it and making it,
And that,
clarifying what it is.
the fact that there was no record of it, council.
Well, there's no record of it, but that doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Right.
Clearly it had been.
But it does qualify according to our building code today that it would be pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes, like, for instance, the building the town hall's in right now, that was built in the town before zoning. You can't build that house anymore. There's many structures in the town that were built before the building codes existed. There's many things that don't have building permits. Basically all of downtown Montauk, all of Main Street, but none of that has building permits. From originally, they've gotten them over.
They're not documented, or there just was no?
They didn't have to have building permits
Okay.
until the 50s.
And back to Member Mearing's question, typically if there's an accessory structure of this size, we would have to give a variance in order for that to have plumbing.
But it's pre-existing non-conforming.
Right.
This existed with plumbing before you were, like, it's the same thing of a property that has two houses on it.
But it wasn't an accessory structure before. It was a
I
thing.
don't know the backstory of it. I'm speculating, this is just speculation, that at one point, somebody owned another property in this neighborhood with a house. And they owned this lot, and it's like, this is my little shack.
We're hanging out, yeah.
And that's what it was.
Well, I think we know that
It was an accessory structure on the property.
by the same people.
It was the main use structure, and that parcel was the main use structure. That's what,
Yes, because it was a
so
separate
whatever
lot.
that main use is, it was the main use structure. And then when they want to build another house, they build a house, it becomes, by operation of law, it becomes an accessory structure if it can meet the definition of an accessory structure in the code, which because it's subordinate and smaller, subordinate position and smaller in size, it does. That's all the code says about accessory structure. So the non-conformity is, I guess, the size and also the fact that it's plumbing, as well as the fact that
Size, the setback.
it's too close to the property line.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah. Okay, so we
All right,
sound like
thank
we
you.
all
I
agree.
mean, there are any number of these, throughout these sort of odd little structures that have been, I mean, if you take the plumbing out in your head, it's still 300 and some odd square foot, which doesn't fit under a category now for an accessory structure, and it's in the side yard setback. So we couldn't make it larger. We could move it out of the setback, do things like that. But, in terms of whether it's legally existing or not, it legally exists because all of the nonconformities predate zoning. So the question of legalizing it, I mean, I'm a little uncomfortable with that language because I think it's already legal. And that's, I mean, and I think, as Andy pointed out in his memo to you guys, this in terms of the precedent, this is such a unique situation in this, that I think I don't think there's a huge precedential risk about having 98,000 people come in here and go, I have my fishing shack and my,
I have my bubby shack.
Bubby shack. I'm sorry, Charlie is a true through and through local that you're the man.
I wouldn't say legalized,
Okay.
it's more getting
Well, right, in response to the board's questions, absolutely. Now there will be a record of what this is going forward. So if somebody comes in here and tries to, I don't know, make it larger or add a kitchen or something, they would obviously need your permission to do that. And we're gonna covenant against a lot of that anyway, so.
Okay, but
In the conversation between Mr. Brown and council, a while ago, you said you're not asking to extend a nonconformity. So that's a key part of this, is we're not looking to extend a nonconformity.
Yeah, Ed, I mean, there really are
Property.
three, it's an unusual size. It has plumbing and it's in the side yard setback. All three of those nonconformities arose at a time before the town code contemplated yard setbacks. There was no zoning for yard setbacks at that point anyway, so it didn't even contemplate that, much less, I mean, we don't even know if you needed a building permit. I mean, in the 40s, I think they were issuing building permits here, but, it would be a box on a sketch or something like that. So it's, that's, though, and we're not looking to increase any of those nonconformities. And traditionally in East Hampton, that has been the approach that the town has taken with respect to these structures, is that we need to come to you guys when we're seeking to increase one of the elements of a non-conforming aspect of a structure. In this case, there are three. So.
Okay, but
Yes, ma'am.
typically,
Yes.
in this a redevelopment of this property, and the code says we should try to maximize eliminating nonconformities.
Well, yeah, okay.
I have to say this.
Go ahead.
You're right about non-conforming uses. You're not right about non-conforming structures. Non-conforming structures
The plumbing is
are non-conforming, they're there. That's not zoning. Please forgive me.
Can I ask one?
All right,
Actually,
let's, okay. go
may I
ahead.
just one more question
One more
for the record?
question.
Okay. So I read the last memo, June 11th, right? And the purpose is, quote, sitting around in your
I
words,
couldn't
right? Is
figure
it-
out what they're doing.
Right, okay. So just again, I want to understand, why would the applicant be averse or refuse to take out the plumbing? Like what, I just want
Would she
to
be
make it
averse to
clear
taking
again.
out the plumbing?
Yeah.
It is.
I'm sorry, whoever would-
An economic, pragmatic reason. I mean, that's all it comes down to.
Economic?
Well, it's a more valuable piece of building with a bathroom. It's more convenient to use with a bathroom. And it is, I think, I'll be quite candid, a little bit of an overreach for you to ask for that. We're not doing anything to that building. And you're getting mitigation in the form of hooking up the building to the septic system.
The
As well as just cleaning
mitigation
up-
is
you're
about the
cleaning up
NRSP.
The shore frontage, and you're getting 50 feet of buffer, and you're worried about a half bathroom, and we're covenanting that it's not going to be separately rented. I mean, so what is the problem with him having a toilet in there?
I'm not saying that it is. I just wanted to make sure I understand the facts of the request. So I always like, for the record, for an applicant or their agents to be able to say, what would be because we're having a lot of discussion about it and it's an unusual request. So I don't believe that I'm respectfully getting over my
property-
skis. So I just wanted to get it on the record from.
You'd like to have the benefit of a bargain.
Thank you, gentlemen. Unless you have something else to add?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
I have
Okay, go ahead.
just one question. This is a sketch that the planning department did, because I don't have that.
Yeah, I whipped it up right before I walked over here.
Oh, okay.
So I gave it to Sam, it's going to be in the record. Again, this is just reflective of the written recommendations of the planning department. At the last hearing, I was like, well, what does that look like? And I was having a hard time with the PDF that night. So I just want this to be reflective of that discussion.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thanks.
But yes,
Member Maring, I'd just like to add as an architect relative to the bathroom that this building is used for sitting around, whatever that might mean, having a drink. It's closer to the dock. It is used currently after a boat ride, before a boat ride. It'll be continuously used that way. And as an architect, if you're using a space like that and you have the opportunity to go to the bathroom in that building without having to go outside, traverse your home to find another bathroom, I think just about anyone would want to take that.
Okay, thank you.
Bolster, but I'm not an architect, but if I'm building a new house and it's a beautiful new house and I'm coming off my boat in the mud, I'd much rather people use the bathroom in the little puppy cottage than in my brand new home.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Are we, any final statements, gentlemen?
We've made enough. We've heard enough.
We've heard enough.
No, we don't have.
You can sit down, Eric. We've heard enough. No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay. Now, you and I have been doing this a long time, my love.
We go back
Since
a long
Schneiderman days, we've been doing this. No, I don't, I think we've, we've presented the best case we can.
Good job.
Andy is asking in terms of the dock, when you guys write, in terms of the width, someone can obviously that will be clarified, I think, in the determination.
Yes.
If we're going down to 5 feet.
Right,
And
we'll do
I
it.
mean, I don't have really anything else to
Point
add
of
at this point.
deliberation. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you, everybody.
Thank you. I think we're ready to close. Okay. So are you finished? Yes, I took care of it.
Okay.
Yep. In the matter of the application of Susan Lehman, 7 Outlook Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-57-4-7, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second.
Concur.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Thank you, Charlie. Excellent.
It's getting warm.
Yeah, it is getting.
Okay. Let me get organized.
Okay.
Okay, now let me just get to it. Now we're moving on to our work session. In other decisions, we have Chili.
No,
Chill.
I didn't see it.
Glasses help. Chill 24 LLC, 24 Cal Hill Lane, Wainscott, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-197-1-29.6 to reopen the record to accept an updated survey. This sounds relatively simple. So who wants to make a motion?
Oh.
You want me to make a motion?
It's your way, Scott.
I'll do it for Roy.
Oh,
Is everyone, obviously, we're okay with this. In the matter of the application of Chill 24 LLC, I make a motion that we reopen the record to accept an updated survey.
second.
Concur.
Concur.
And Madam
Yes.
Chair, for the evening, I would like to recuse myself from this
We're
next
not
discussion.
finished with chill yet.
Oh, we're not? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get in the
No,
way of
I'm
your
going
motion?
to make a
sorry.
motion to close the record for Chill 24 LLC,
right.
24 Cow Hill Lane, Wainscott.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, sorry.
Member Maring, go
Jumped the
ahead.
gun on that. Excuse me.
You are accusing yourself on Sands Capital, is that correct?
Yes, I am already recused on Sands Capital, so I'm stepping out right now.
Okay. Okay. Now. So the next item on the work session is Sands Capital Holdings LLC, 183 Marine Boulevard, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-176-8-23.3. There is a request from the agent to reopen the record to accept additional information. As we're aware, we have received 2 letters. I am recommending that they be entered into the record, but I'm also recommending, and not really recommending it, I'm thinking this is the action the board should take. Earlier at our pre-meeting, I noticed the new submission that was made by Mr. Hammer on this application. And I wasn't really aware of how the calculations would work out with the new submission. So I asked him to do calculations on, well, you know, how are these calculations going to work out now? Are they more or less than that what they were already asking for? So it turns out he came back to me with the calculations, and they're actually asking for more. It appears to look like less, but it isn't. With the pyramid for the residents, they were asking 6.92 feet eastern, 12.75 northern, but the new pyramid for the variance is now 6.875 foot eastern, relatively the same, 12.75 northern. But the pyramid for the cottage, the western side, was 5.58 feet, but the new pyramid for the cottage is now 7 feet, 11.25 inches western, and there's actually a new pyramid variance for 5 inches on the northern side. Now, when we get to the height for the residents, for the public hearing that we heard, it was 7.75 feet, maximum height of 37.75 feet, and the new height for the residents is actually more. It's 10.125 feet, maximum height of 35.125 feet. The variances for the GFA are unchanged, and there's two variances of 4.6 feet and 0.4 feet to construct the decking and swimming pool. So none of that has changed. So my recommendation, or the way I think we should proceed, is because they're asking for more than what was previously noticed, I think we should have a new hearing.
I agree. Dan, let me just ask you, these documents are in the record already? We reopened to accept?
I think, you know, with, yeah, we should have them in the record.
Okay, but now the plan, I saw a redo of the plan in Mr. Hammer's
And these are the
submission,
recalculations I had Tyler
and
do.
it's a very different plan.
It's a very,
It's
well,
seriously
that's why,
different.
Just a letter.
that's
And-
why it would, right.
Yeah, from what I was, this was before I was here, this whole stuff, from my understanding is we had a hearing, there was a discussion about providing a flat roof option.
Mm-hmm.
This is that option,
Yes.
so he got that in. I don't think that it's necessarily the applicant, just, they were saying you guys requested it and he provided it. I don't think that they're necessarily one way or the other. They're not saying this is the new plan per se. If it was the plan, you could obviously discuss it, but.
Yeah, I think we
guess
should,
I don't recall that somebody in this board asked them for a flat roof option.
Or I think.
I think the word alternatives came up.
Well, alternatives, that's different, but.
Yeah, no,
this is
I agree.
This is a big change in this application. I'm almost wondering if it should be withdrawn and redone, but I would.
I think a new,
Change in the application. He was responding to comments that were being discussed either by the board, I wasn't here, but the board or by the public, because someone raised a question on why can't it be a flat roof option? This was provided, and I think what I was told, that there was the neighbors and the neighbors agent had 5 days to respond after they got the submission, so I think that's what's going on.
so, go ahead, go ahead, John.
It does change the area variances.
Yes.
Yes.
And we weren't noticed for that. So that's why I feel we should have another public hearing. It should be renoticed and, you know, we'll proceed that way. And if they don't want to proceed that way and go back to what was originally proposed, that's their choice.
Oh, definitely. I'm not just accepting.
But I think because it
At
was.
least we have to have a hearing.
I think so too. How do you feel, Member Johan?
Well, I think it's a significantly different proposal. It's different architecture, it's different. A lot of the discussion we had was about pyramid number one, about the compatibility with the neighborhood, about the size of it, how it was going to loom, but moving it is further away from the ocean. These are all sensitive comments that we hit with sensitive areas we have to discuss. This is a whole new approach. I think it requires a hearing. I don't think we can do this just very casually. So I'm with you that I think that if we're going to come forward, let's do another hearing and we'll let them present what they have and we'll see how that varies from what was once.
So how do we go about this? Is it a letter? Is it a motion? Do we notify the applicant that the board has decided they'd like to have a new hearing?
Yeah, we'll have to let the applicant know that they're going to have hearing.
They're probably going to want to submit things in advance of the hearing, so should the record be closed?
Right.
Well, if they're gonna reopen,
No, then we leave the record open.
I think when we have, I think when we have the next hearing, we usually combine the two hearings. I mean, we can do that too.
yeah, it would be one,
Yeah, it would be combining the, yeah, I think so too.
and then they would have to, renotice it
Yes,
and get it on a schedule. I would think that this should go
as quickly as
as quickly
possible.
as possible.
I agree.
And not be put to that,
So Sam, the first available date that we have, could we put them on?
Well, they have to do the whole notice thing.
I mean, we'll be communicating with them and talking, but, as soon as we can, we will.
July 15th is already a full hearing.
Yeah,
July 22nd is a possibility.
okay. So we can leave it open to hear from them. So how do we do this? Is it a letter or, yes? We let them know that the board has decided to go on with a new hearing?
I think we just do a letter to the agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've accepted the documents.
They're already, yeah, we already closed it, yeah.
Okay, and we want a hearing.
But I
So-
think that, I don't know, the hearing, it should be focused on this the new
right.
paperwork. and not
Absolutely, the new information, yes.
That's the
No,
purpose.
just the whole purpose is the new calculations.
Absolutely, I agree, yeah.
And it's more than what was previously posted or scheduled for.
Yes.
And everything that's in the public record will stay attached to
That's
this.
correct.
We're ready
Okay,
to
so we're
Jane.
good.
We're ready to Jane and get her back.
So
We're done.
I think we're done.
Can't get on the phone.
I'm going to text her.
We should go.
Okay, next, all right, next we have the minutes, Member Berger.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the draft minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025.
I second.
I'll concur.
Concur.
Sorry, you're doing minutes?
Yeah,
I concur.
Resolutions, we have George and Anastasia Gavalas. Member Mering? Oh, no, we're tabling this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Next, we have Ryan and Courtney Holgan. Which one? You? or-
That was me.
That was you?
Yeah. You recall this one, it's on South Fuller Street in Country Club Estates section of Montauk, and this is the one that has the pond and the wetlands. The applicant was adding an addition, and they were also removing a whole lot of structures on the pond side of the house in order to do an addition and extension on the front, on the landward side, and they were also offering the new IA system. So we'll recall this. I believe this was a unanimous approval. So for Ryan and Courtney Hogan at 17 South Fuller Street in Montauk, and make Suffolk County Tax Map 300-28-8-27, make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Alicia and Guy Longobardo, 42 Hampton Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-174-7-15. Member Marion?
Yes, I had written a comment to Mr. Armentano, who had drafted these with a question/proposed edit, and I don't know that I heard back. So, Charlie, do you know if?
I don't know. No.
I wasn't aware, I haven't seen any revisions to what I originally read.
Okay.
Table this?
Do we have time to table? Yeah, we have time to table this, right?
Table till the 8th, do we have that time?
We just decided it, I think,
I
but
think so too.
Yeah, we can do.
is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll check back in with him. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam. Scott Albrecht, 28 Butternut Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-4-3-19.
And well, this was a modification, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
okay.
with him.
So this is the one where I believe in the back on the, no, it would be on the north side of the house, that there was a fire pit that had not been incorporated into a previous determination and approval. And we all agreed to approve the modification to legalize that fire pit, and I believe it's on a slate patio. So I will make a motion for Scott Albrecht at 28 Butternut Drive in Montauk tax map 300-4-3-19, to approve the modification as written.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur too.
Concur.
Ford, 11 Harbor Hill Lane, Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-83-6-7-2. This was the result of a modification. The relief approved would update to change the stone patio located 41.3 feet from wetlands to wood decking instead. Omit the approved screen porch 42.7 feet. Omit the approved addition 47.5 feet. Omit the approved trellis 76 feet and include a proposed roof overhang 47.5 feet from wetlands. It's actually a better approval than what was approved. So I make a motion.
Is this the one, though, that
They took out the septic.
took out the septic? Should that
swap?
be noted, Eunice?
Yeah.
Where they
Did you?
didn't want to do the IA?
You know what? I don't, oh, wait a minute. Since the additions to the application are removing the upgraded sanitary system from the plans resulting in the, I don't have the rest of the letter. Oh,
They
and-
removed everything that would require a septic system. They didn't do any, they're not doing any of the additions or renovations,
right,
just like a decking.
yeah, it's already,
Well, it says
we've
eliminating.
kind of already approved
Does
this.
it say it?
Yeah.
It's in
Okay.
the modification,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So, in the matter of the application of, oh no,
Ford.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Brad James 4, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resolution amending determination as written.
Second. Oh,
Concur.
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 Next is Bluff Road Associates LLC, 325 Bluff Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-190-2-21. Member Marion?
yes, thank you. You'll recall this modification relates to an application the board approved within this calendar year, total redevelopment of the property. Post our approval, the New York State DEC came back to the applicant requiring a number of changes. So everything in the modification reflects I guess, what the DEC had required or asked for. So I would like to make a motion in the matter of Bluff Road Associates LLC, 325 Bluff Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-190-2-21 to accept the modification as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Sorry, I meant the resolution is written.
Member Johan, can you make a motion to adjourn?
I certainly can, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing and work session at 8:40 for June 24th, 2025 at 8:40 PM.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.